yeah, I look so pretty. What the fuck? I need to stop. That's a freaking great song. I haven't seen the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but I will probably watch it tonight. Hello guys, I'm Sabrina, and today I'm going to be telling you guys what my top favorite books were of 2020. I have 9 books. I read a total of 50 books and only 9 were my favorite. Yes, I do have them in order and I have a lot to say, so let's just get on to the list. So coming in at number 9, we have Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This was one of my most anticipated reads for 2020 and it did not disappoint. It was so good. Now since this wasn't my first Shadowhunter Chronicles books, like first book in a series within the Shadowhunter Chronicles, I did go in knowing that there was going to be quite the info dump and a lot of build-up, so I was aware of going into that, but besides that, it was really good. It did take about like 200 pages out of this 500-page book to really make me intrigued, but once we got there, it was so good. I love it so much. I really love that there are different chapters that are dedicated to like the different cast of characters, because this is a really huge cast. You're following a lot of people, a lot of storylines. You're gonna get a lot of storylines. I know that it's probably going to expand even more with the storylines with the next 2 books, but I'm all here for it. I love those chapters because you do get insight on different characters and you just fall in love with them. It's so great. I love the character dynamics. There's so many character relationships and it is fantastic. I love it so much. Everyone has a different dynamic with a different person and it's so beautiful. I love the different showcases of siblingships. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I love the different kinds of siblings that we see within this first book, and it's done so well. Like the base of what we get from the relationships and all of the, you know, all the character stuff is just laid out so perfectly. It is great. I cannot wait for the next book because it comes out in 2021. I'm so excited. And yes, I did cry at the end of this one because it just tore my heart apart. You can just feel the agony within some characters and it is so sad. Oh my god, I am rooting for my favorites in this one and I just hope that things just have a happy ending. I have high hopes for a happy ending because with all the other endings within the Shadowhunter Chronicles, they've all been pretty happy. So fingers crossed. If you don't know what Chain of Gold is about, Chain of Gold follows a large cast of characters, as I've already mentioned, and it's the series after the Infernal Devices series, which is a prequel series to the main series, the Mortal Instruments. They'll look it up on Google. It's a whole thing. What it centers around are the 2 children of Will and Tessa, James and Lucy, and also our other protagonist, Cordelia. And Cordelia comes to London because of some things that are happening with her family, and within London they come across these new set of demons that can walk in daylight, and they've never seen that before, and they are poisoning some shadow hunters, and so they have to figure out a way to stop that and defeat these demons and all that. It's the first book. It's already really complex, but there are still some things to dig into. That's just the basis of what it is. It does delve into more character heavy things with figuring out James's lineage and like what the fuck is going on with him, to Cordelia and her family, a lot of things. It's multifaceted, if you would say. It's great, fantastic, very complex, love it. Coming in at number 8 is Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This was my first ever adult romance novel and I just fell in love with it. It made me go on this spiral of reading adult romance books, and if you watched my wrap up, you would know how much I have read, and I have read a little bit more since then. But talking about Get a Life Chloe Brown, this was just a gem. There was a lot of hype around this, and so I was like, okay, you know, I'm looking for something lighthearted, something a little fluffy to read, and I picked it up. It was so good. It was amazing. I loved our two main characters, Chloe and Red. So great. Oh, such fantastic characters. I can't rave enough about how great this book was. What I loved so much about this book was that you're following these two separate characters, but then they have their own personal journeys and you care so much about them, and it's so great. They have individual growth and there's continuity with it. I love it so much. Oh my god, it is great. Fantastic. Also, to mention, the smut scenes were my favorite, are still my favorite. I've read quite a lot of smutty adult romance books, and this one is still top tier for me. Can't get enough of it. If you don't know what Get a Life Chloe Brown is about, it follows our main characters, Chloe and Red. Chloe, she has a chronic illness, and she's also a computer geek, and she has a near-death experience, and so this propels her into making a list to essentially get a life. So her first thing on her list is to get her own place, and so she does, and she gets a place, a flat, you would say, and the supervisor of the building that she's staying in or living in is Red, and so they kind of have this back and forth, and eventually she enlists in Red to help her with her list and get things done, and romance blossoms. It's fantastic, amazing, perfection, just gold. Coming in at number 7, we have You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. I love this book so much. It is so romantic. It is the lovers to enemies to lovers trope, or the second chance trope. I love it so much. It was so refreshing and nice to watch these two characters become friends again and understand one another and just listen to each other and really communicate. I love it so much. I love the growth of it. It was so great. It was so cute, so wholesome. I loved the ending. It was so cute. I also really love that this book was humorous, because I did find myself genuinely laughing and having such a freaking fun time. It was amazing. I loved it so much. What I also really love about this is that because it is from only one person's perspective, we have Nick and Naomi, it was only from Naomi's perspective, and so this book could have easily turned into Nick is the bad guy, he's the one who's fucking this whole relationship up, but no. Naomi also looks at herself and what she's done, and she also acknowledges that she was also the problem, she was also the one who wasn't communicating, and it was great. I loved it. I love how both sides were acknowledged with how they weren't giving in to the relationship and how like they are together now growing from it, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. If you don't know what You Deserve Each Other is about, this book follows our main couple, Nick and Naomi, and they are engaged, but they are losing feelings for each other. I don't know, I forgot. How do I forget? No, I remember what this book is about. They're engaged, and Naomi's kind of like, I'm not feeling this relationship anymore, and so when Nick kind of hints that I might not want this relationship too, she's like, okay, but it's all about saving face in this one, and so she makes it her mission, or I guess both of them make it their mission, to get the other one to back out of their engagement, sort of like a game of chicken, you know? That stuff happens, but then eventually through that they learn to communicate and really listen to each other, and things just blossom. It is fantastic. I love it so much. Cannot rave about it enough. Coming in at number 6, we have another adult romance book, and this one is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. I just fell in love with this one, especially after a brief reread of it. It is fantastic. I completely forgot within the weeks that I hadn't read it how much I loved it. It was so good, so easygoing, so lighthearted. It was fantastic. I love our two main characters, Michael and Stella. They are just perfection. The way they fit together so well, the way they respect each other, they care for each other, and the growth of their affection, the mutual pining is just to die for. I love it. Michael, we love that man. We love him so much. Oh my god. I also really loved the family aspect in this one. It was so genuine and realistic and heartwarming. I loved it so much. This one is one of the top tier adult romance books out there. Loved it. Also, the smut scenes. Also cannot rave about it enough. It is just perfection. Also love that we get straight into it right away. I mean, come on. We're talking about this story where Stella is hiring an escort, Michael, to teach her how to have sex better, if that's what you would call it. So yeah, you better bet that this better start with some smut. If you don't know what the Kiss Quotient is about, this book follows our two main characters, Stella and Michael. Stella has Asperger's and she's also a workaholic, so this leads her to thinking that she's not good at sex, that she's not good at relationships, and all that stuff. So she hires Michael, who is an escort. He's a professional escort. And so she hires him to have him teach her how to be better at sex and eventually how to be better at relationships and stuff. The fake dating trope happens. It's so cute, so wholesome, just greatness. I love it so much. Coming in at number 5 is one of the last books that I read in the year of 2020. I talked about it in the vlog that I posted, should be posted by now, but that book is Kids of Appetite by David Arnold. This one was a gem. I loved it so much. It was a reread for me, and I read it back in 2018, and my tastes back in 2018 were way different from my taste right now in 2021, I guess you would say. So I was a little nervous that I wouldn't like this one, but it's fine because it was just beautiful. I love it. Probably even more than the first time that I read it. It was fantastic. I loved it. The found family trope. I am telling you, it is perfection in this one. Literally, there are quality scenes. You get quality scenes with the whole friendship and the family. It is just indescribable. It's so wholesome, so heartwarming. Also, the romance between Matt and Vic, so cute, so wholesome, amazing. Grief was also explored in this one, and it was just fantastic. Made me cry. I was sobbing at the end of this book. I was crying my eyes out, and it was beautiful, just amazing, perfection. Oh my god, I love it so much. Oh my god, it does sort of read like a John Green novel, but that's okay. It's the nostalgia that's hitting me, but also not that. It's just an amazing book. I love it so much. Also, this one is one where hints are dropped, like subtle hints are dropped in the beginning of the book, and you're kind of like, okay, what the fuck does this mean? But then it all makes sense at the end, and everything just ties together. It's like one whole circle, and I love those kinds of stories, and this was that story, and it was fantastic. If you don't know what this book is about, this book follows our two main characters, Vic and Mad. They start out in an interrogation room where something bad has happened, and we flash back to a week before where Vic is dealing with the death of his father, and so he runs away and he meets this group of people who are sort of outcast in society, and they adventure, and it's a journey about finding a place where they belong, and it's so beautiful. It is fantastic. I love it. Just great. I could go on for days about this. For the next two books, they are number 4 and number 3, but I will kind of group them together because they do fall under the same series, which is the Modern Love series by Alisha Rai. But those two books are The Right Swipe and Girl Gone Viral. Both books have aspects that are very similar to each other that I love so much, but the stories are very different. So don't worry about it being a carbon copy of each other. The Right Swipe is a second chance romance, and it is so great. I love Ree and Samson. They had such great chemistry. The banter was amazing between the two. Fantastic. Girl Gone Viral had me smiling through it like an idiot. Literally, it was the cutest thing ever. It was so wholesome. I loved it so much. This one was the bodyguard trope, and I've never read anything like that. I've never come across anything like that, and after this one, I don't hate it. Honestly, like, just thinking about that, I would initially think that I wouldn't like it, but after reading this one, oh my god, I would die for it. It is so good. So the thing with these two books that I initially found kind of off-putting was that it centered around some social media aspect, and I'm usually not a fan of social media aspects or modern day lingo within books because I do find it a bit cringy, but it fucking works in here so well. I loved it so much. I didn't find it cringy at all, and it was great. Fantastic. So with these two books that I just absolutely loved, like I loved so much, was the communication and comprehension and the understanding of each other. You know, they had conversations like adults, and I loved it so much. They understood the other person's boundaries, and they didn't try to push on it. You know, they were only there to support the other, and it was so endearing. Also, the thing that I love so much about these two books is that the main characters within the different stories have their own individual lives. You get enough content about their individual lives where you care about them, where you are rooting for them. I felt such a huge connection with the different main characters, and I loved it so much how they are so well developed and very intriguing individually, but then also when they come together in this romance, I also care for them, and I also am rooting for this ship to sail, and it is so great. That is why I love these books. That is why they are the top tier adult romance books for me. And I would like to mention how great the endings were for these two books. They were so realistic, not over the top, dramatic, cheesy, although I'm not opposed to those kinds of endings, you know, I do love them, but with these, it just felt like the perfect ending to the stories that they were. It was fantastic. They were realistic, they were intimate, they were just so heartwarming, and I couldn't ask for a better ending from these two books. It's perfect. And one last mention, the smut scenes, chef's kiss. We loved it so much. Yes! Fantastic! I'm telling you, they were so great. These two romance books are the top tier adult romance books, and I will die on this hill saying that. If you don't know what The Right Swipe is about, this book follows our two main characters, Ree and Samson. Ree is the CEO and creator of this dating app, and Samson is a football player who I think is retired, and they had this hookup one night, but then some things happened. Apparently Samson ghosted Ree, and so she's like, fuck all men, yes. But then years later, Samson becomes the face of a rival dating app and comes face to face with Ree again, and Ree is just like, oh my god, this is the dude that fucking ghosted me. And they work together, and romance blossoms, romance ensues, as you would expect, and is great. Second chance romance, loved it. Chef's kiss, beautiful. Gone Girl, oh my god, Gone Girl. Oh, this is the entire wrong book. Girl Gone Viral follows our two main characters, Katrina and Jazz, and Katrina is this very wealthy woman who was married to a rich dude, and so she, after the rich dude died, she inherited all the money, and girl is smart. She invested in some stocks, some businesses. She is the best friend of Ree, who is the main character in The Right Swipe. Katrina does deal with some PTSD and anxiety and has panic attacks, and so this hinders her from really going out into the outside world and feeling comfortable, and so she has a bodyguard, Jazz. When a situation of Katrina going viral on the internet happens, she starts having anxiety, and so Jazz is like, okay, you know, you're not feeling well, and like, what do you want? And so they go away to his family farmhouse, an abandoned family farmhouse. It's a house that's an extension of their actual house, but like no one ever goes there. And so Jazz brings Katrina there, and again, romance ensues. It's fantastic. I loved it. I'm pretty sure I butchered those synopses, but go read the synopsis yourself on Google or Goodreads, because I can never do it justice with any of the synopsis that I say. Coming in at number 2, we have Deposing Nathan by Zach Smedley. This was my first book of the year 2020, and yes, it is on this list. I'm kind of surprised because a lot of the earlier books that I read, they are muddled with all the later books that I've read, but this one just stands out so much. I love it so much. I was initially really excited to read this book, and it lived up to my expectations. It's a kind of a difficult book to read because it does deal with a lot of heavy topics like abuse, emotional and physical. There are trigger warnings for the books on this list, and I will put them down in the description box so that you guys know what you're gonna go into if you're wanting to read these books. But yeah, this was a really emotional and intense book for me, but it also was one that just gave me a lot of comfort. I read this at a really perfect time in my life, and I just felt like I was really identifying some certain parts of myself within this book, and it was fantastic. I had a whole bunch of thoughts, and this book was like, here, this is what it means. This is what you're feeling. And it was great. I loved the characters. I loved how genuine they were, and the way some certain things played out. It felt very realistic, and it was just so heartbreaking. But there is like this beacon of hope and light within this book, and that's what I really loved about it. This book is just truly a gem, and I will forever love it. If you don't know what Deposing Nathan is about, this book follows our main character Nathan, and he's giving a deposition because his best friend Cameron, or Cam, stabbed Nathan. And so through the deposition we get the story of how the two boys became friends, and then a little bit more than friends, and the events that led up to the stabbing incident. Religion and sexuality are topics that are talked throughout this book, and it's a really big factor into how the story and how the events came to be. And then coming in at number 1, are you gonna be surprised about what it is? Probably not. It is an Ember and the Ashes series by Sabati here. Yes, the 4 books I'm considering number 1 because it's just one whole story, and it is great, fantastic. If you watch my vlog, if it's posted already, you would know how badly this series affected me, especially that last book. A Sky Beyond the Storm, fucked me over so hard. Not like in a bad way, but in a good way emotionally, where I cried about it like for a week. We'll probably cry tonight about it, to be honest. I love this series with my entire soul, my existence, my whole being. It is literal perfection. I love it so much. This book has a lot of meaning to me. I think I talk about it in my vlog, so if you want to listen to my personal feelings about that, go watch that. There's a snippet of it in there somewhere. And Ember the Ashes series is literally one of my favorite series, like top favorites up there, like all time. And yes, I have complained about it in the past where I was like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense, like I don't like how this happened, you know, this kind of was boring. But fuck that, it was so good. It is so great, so amazing. I cannot rave about it enough. It is great. The characters, the world building, everything is just fantastic, so complex. I also have a whole review about the first 3 books on my channel, so go watch that. But it is also not that great. So take it with a grain of salt when I say that I have a review about it, because is it really a review? I don't know. But this entire story is so emotional. Every character has this inner conflict within them, and they have such great developments. It is so great. From where they started in book 1 to where they grow in book 4 is just a huge character arc, and I love it so much. The side characters, I'm telling you, you will get attached to them so badly, and it's gonna hurt you so much. It's also gonna hurt if you get really, really attached to these main characters too. I mean, get attached. I'm like saying, it's a great time. Your heart will hurt, but it's a great time. The world building is just so great. You get the basis of what it is from the first book, but then it evolves and grows so much within the next 3 books, and it's amazing. It goes at a really, really good pace, and so you're never trying to catch up. You know, you're always in the know of, okay, this is what happens, this is what's gonna happen, and it's amazing. The dialogue, one of my favorite things, guys. It is so good. The writing itself is just beautiful. Gorgeousness, it's just so beautiful. I literally have bookmarked a whole bunch of lines within my physical copies. They are so great. Yes, it does get kind of fancy, but it doesn't matter because it's so smooth. It flows so nicely together, and it is great. Fantastic. Literally, I could go on for days about how much I love this book series and everything about it, and just like talking about like certain things, because it is just such a favorite of mine. I love it so much. I thank you, Sabati, here, for giving us this amazing series. I am also very sad that we won't get to read these characters anymore and their stories and all of that, but it's okay, because you know what, these 4 books were just amazing. It's such a very heavy series, but I love it so much. It's great, fantastic, I love it. If you're gonna read any book from this list, go read this one. Get wrecked. You're gonna hurt, but you're also gonna love it. It's fantastic. If you don't know what this book series is about, I will give a synopsis about the first book so I don't spoil the other books in this series. The first book follows our 2 main characters, Elia and Elias, and they both live in the Empire. Elias is a marshal and Elia is a scholar, where the marshals are oppressors, the scholars are the oppressed. The book starts with Elia's brother getting arrested for treason, and because he's the only family that she has left, she goes out to save him from dying, basically, and this leads her to becoming a spy for the commandant of Blackcliff Academy, which is a military academy within the Empire, and that is where Elias attends, and he is their top finest soldier there, and their paths cross and a lot of things ensue. Adventure, action, a lot of sad shit happens. It's a great but also heart-hitting time. That is it for my favorite books of 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your top favorite books were in the comments down below if you want to. Thank you guys for watching this far, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.